Coming up on 5 Minute News. Merrick Garland seeks to unseal warrant for Mar-a-Lago search. Trump hires Atlanta celebrity attorney in light of election probe. And CDC drops social distancing recommendations for coronavirus. It's Friday, August 12. I'm Anthony Davis. The Justice Department is asking a federal court to unseal the warrant the FBI used to search the Mar-a-Lago estate of former President Donald Trump, Attorney General Merrick Garland said on Thursday, acknowledging extraordinary public interest in the case about classified records. The request is striking because such documents traditionally remain sealed during a pending investigation. But the Justice Department appeared to recognize that its silence since the search had created a vacuum for bitter verbal attacks by Trump and his allies, and Garland wanted to provide the FBI's side for what led to the action. Should the warrant be released, the request is now with the judge, and Trump can object. It could disclose potentially unflattering information about the former president and his handling of sensitive government documents, right as he prepares for another run for the White House. To obtain a search warrant, federal authorities must prove to a judge that probable cause exists to believe that a crime was committed. Trump, who for years has lambasted the FBI and sought to sow distrust amongst his supporters in its decisions, said the warrant was served and the search conducted despite his cooperation with the Justice Department. In this case, though, Garland cited the fact that Trump himself had provided the first public confirmation of the FBI search as his right. Meanwhile, an Ohio emergency management agency said a standoff ended on Thursday between law enforcement and an armed man suspected of trying to breach the FBI's Cincinnati office. State police confirmed the man was killed after he fled and exchanged gunfire with law enforcement. Officials said the man was wearing body armor and was chased onto a highway about 45 miles northeast of Cincinnati. There are early reports that the man was present at the January 6 riot at the U.S. Capitol. The shooting came as officials warned of an increase in threats against federal agents in the days following the search of the former president's estate in Florida and Trump's false statements about the FBI. Donald Trump has hired prominent Atlanta criminal defense attorney Drew Findling, known for defending famous rappers, to represent him in matters related to the special grand jury that's investigating whether the former president illegally tried to interfere with the 2020 election in Georgia. Findling said in an email statement that he is a passionate advocate against injustice and will strongly defend Trump, despite many postings that suggest his politics is very much on the left. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis opened the investigation early last year, and the special grand jury was seated in May at her request. Willis has confirmed since the early days of the investigation that she's interested in a January 2021 recorded phone call between Trump and Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. During the conversation, Trump suggested Raffensperger could find the votes needed to overturn his narrow loss in the state. "All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have," Trump said during the call. Willis last month filed petitions seeking to compel testimony before the special grand jury from 7 Trump associates and advisors, including former New York Mayor and Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani and U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, and she has said that she is considering subpoenaing the former president himself. The nation's top public health agency relaxed its COVID-19 guidelines yesterday, dropping the recommendation that Americans quarantine themselves if they come into close contact with an infected person. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention also said that people no longer need to stay at least 6 feet away from others. The changes, which come more than 2.5 years after the start of the pandemic, are driven by a recognition that an estimated 95% of Americans 16 and older have acquired some level of immunity, either from being vaccinated or infected, agency officials said. Many places around the country long ago abandoned social distancing and other once common precautions, but some of the changes could be particularly important for schools, which resume classes this month in many parts of the country. Perhaps the biggest education-related change is the end of the recommendation that schools do routine daily testing, although that practice can be reinstated in certain situations during a surge in infections, officials said. The CDC also dropped a test-to-stay recommendation, which said students exposed to COVID-19 could regularly test instead of quarantining at home to keep attending school. With no quarantine recommendation anymore, the testing option has disappeared too. Masks continue to be recommended only in areas where community transmission is deemed high or if a person is considered at high risk of severe illness. School districts across the U.S. have scaled back their COVID-19 precautions in recent weeks, even before the latest guidance was issued. The American Federation of Teachers, one of the nation's largest teachers' unions, said it welcomes the guidance. You can subscribe to 5-Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5-Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5-Minute News is an Evergreen podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.